We are going to be talking about a couple of great locations in the American Southwest. What'sYourGhostStory.com is about haunted history. And so I like to kind of just put a little bit of a stamp on where we are in history each time I do these. And I'm going to be doing them once a week from here on out. We are still on lockdown. We are here in Madison, Wisconsin, which is where I am. It's been about 2 straight months of seeing nobody but my beautiful fiance and going nowhere other than just the grocery store and nothing else. And this is so different because we're travelers. We are on the road usually all the time, especially at the beginning of the year. We're really always on the road. I'm usually at different film festivals. And then we find out today, actually, that COVID may have been partying with us at the Sundance Film Festival. And I don't know, we actually had some suspicions about that earlier. One of my coworkers got extraordinarily sick. And he started to wonder, did I have it? And I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't know if he has not been tested yet to find out if he had it, but it would be one of those things where if we ended up finding out that he did have it, it wouldn't have been that much of a surprise to learn that. So yeah, we are at around, I think it's 71,000 deaths right now. And we're also coming up on 1.25 million positive tests within America. One of the states that's getting hit really hard, that seems to be where the cases are going up like a lot. They're doubling every week right now, is Minnesota, which is not too far from where I am right now. And it's hard to really know what that exactly means. Does that mean that there are more people getting sick and that there's more people spreading it? Or is it just that there's more testing going on up there and that's what so we're learning about it? Whatever the case, and I know a lot of people are trying to get back to work. They want to get back to work. They want to get back to their regular life. We all do. And the thing is, we just have to do it the smartest way possible. So anybody that goes out, please use all of the precautions possible. Again, I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but I just kind of wanted to put a little stamp on what's going on in the world right now from a historical standpoint. And oh yeah, the other little thing, Kim Jong-un, what's up with him? Where is he? He's kind of missing. The leader of the very stable country of North Korea went in for apparently a medical procedure and hasn't been seen from in a long time. Actually, shout out to Callie Anderson, who's joining. She is a medical worker on the front line. So hats off to you. Highly respect you for what you're doing. And also big shout out to my cousin Megan, who is also a nurse, her first year being in the workforce. And this is her first exposure to being an employee of a hospital, and wow, trial by fire. So I'd like to try a little chit chat as well. So I posted 2 questions earlier today, if you guys saw them. One, in the last week since we last spoke, has anybody cooked anything interesting, anything good? I have been just tearing up the kitchen as much as I can. And I really do like to cook in general, but it's been elevated the last couple of weeks. And my highlight from last week was I should have saved this for Cinco de Mayo. I wasn't even thinking about it, but I made a really great Mexican dinner that included a black bean dip that we are still dining on very regularly. And and stuffed chili, a stuffed bell pepper thing. It was really good. And then also I want to know from you what, when you can get back to your normal life, get back to whatever you want to do, being able to be as free as we want to be. What are you looking forward to doing the most? Anybody that knows me knows I love baseball, and I'm missing baseball so badly right now. I hope that can come back. But as far as an activity, if I could do anything in the world right now, what I would do is I would go to see Sunspot play at Hop Garden over in Paoli, which is not too far from Madison. It's this awesome little outdoor venue that, of course, I'm not a beer drinker, but they do have craft beer, but they've got this lovely outdoor stage. It's right along a river. It's right next to an old mill. Wonderful way to spend a Sunday afternoon. And they play there so frequently, usually Sundays during the summer. And we have no idea when they will play next.
Compact and mean, a creature plucked right from an animal's bloodstream. He'll beat you slow, his eyes burn red. It's the little
to us from Michigan, another state that got hit pretty hard, another state that's seeing a lot of protests and whatnot. Just first off, you know, we are Americans, we are free, we are able to voice our opinions, and that is all great. Why do you have to have guns? It's a protest. You don't need guns for just walking around talking. So chill out a little bit, pump the brakes, let your voice be heard. You don't need a gun. You don't need an AK to walk around on a sidewalk. And we haven't seen that, but we have seen activity in Madison as well, because the Capitol's not too far from where I'm coming to you from. Steve Leeper misses the Cubs and camping. Hey, you know, I don't want to get this. I mean, I do want to make it a baseball chat, which that's not why we're here. But there's one proposal out there is that all the nearby teams, like if baseball comes back, the divisions will be realigned so there's less travel, which would mean that the Cubs and White Sox would be playing in the same division, which I am all for. I would love to see that. Finally, it's the first time in like a decade that the White Sox have been anywhere near interesting. So I really want to see them play the Cubs some more. It would have been terrible the last couple of years, but now maybe we have a chance. One other thing I want to say, because we are trying to give people interesting, fun things to do other than go stir crazy at home, is myself and a lot of other really wonderful creators and members of the paranormal world are trying to create some programming for you. The next really cool live stream to tune in on is going to be at 6:30 p.m. At facebook.com/Haunted Galena. Ted and Robin run the Haunted Galena Tour Company. If you don't know, Galena is this amazing town in western Illinois, right on the Mississippi River. Really a town that's locked in time from its heyday in the earlier 1800s, I believe 1830s, when it was a lead mining town. And I think it was something like 9 Civil War generals ended up coming from Galena. It has this just huge, huge, huge history. So the tour company is amazing. The tours that they put on are wonderful. Obviously, they can't do those right now. So what they are going to do is they are going to come on at 6:30 p.m. This is all Central Time at facebook.com/Haunted Galena and talk about one of the old, I think it is Galena's oldest house, and it is an actively haunted location called the Dowling House. Also, they were my guests on a recent episode of the Fantastic Story Society podcast where we talk about the art of storytelling. So definitely check that out. That link is also in the video description. Sunday at 2 o'clock, the See You on the Other Side podcast will be doing a live episode recording. They will be doing this on YouTube, and their guest is going to be Nick Redfern. And he just wrote a book about Rendlesham, which is basically, they call it Britain's Roswell, because it is kind of the big iconic moment in British UFO history. And Nick Redfern actually did already previously write a book about Roswell, so he is definitely the dude to go to for it. He's a British best-selling author, journalist, cryptozoologist, and ufologist. So again, the link for that, you can just go to youtube.com and search for See You on the Other Side, but in the video description, I do have a direct link there. Let's see. Also, and then going around the bend to next week, every Tuesday, Amelia Cotter does Spooky Story Tuesdays, which is really fun. I've been watching them for a bit. She comes on at 6 o'clock Central Time and tells stories for about a half hour. They are family friendly, so this can be one that you allow the kids to watch with you. She dips into scary stories to tell in the dark, that book series sometimes. And she always just curates a bunch of different stories in theme. Last week it was ghost animals. Coming up, the theme is going to be family. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but you can see Manson family. Probably not for her. And she also has a special guest each episode, which is a different snake. So yes, Amelia has been on the Fantastic Story Society as well, because she knows all of this lore and history about snakes throughout mythology and whatnot and folklore. And she gave such a great presentation at the Chicago Ghost Conference that I invited her on to my podcast to let her share her stories there as well. So I've got a link to that there. But to tune in next Tuesday, 6 p.m., it's facebook.com/Amelia M. Cotter. I miss travel. We are on the road all the time. And it seemed, usually we're on the road all the time, but one of the really amazing places that I want to talk about today is actually a place that's being hit very hard right now. It is, I don't know if it's the only one, but it's at the very least one of the very few towns in all of America right now. So as you guys know, the big cities got hit super hard right away. And now it's some of the smaller towns that are beginning to get hit hard by the coronavirus. And one such place is Gallup, New Mexico, which is a small town that had just, I think it was around 1,000 cases pop up over the weekend. And so they are now down under a riot control lockdown, as if they were rioting in the streets. You can't drive into the town even. It's completely locked down. Now, this is a place that I was fortunately able to go to, and I can't wait for everything to get back to normal so I can go there again, because this is the place that hosts the El Rancho Hotel. And first off, I got to say, Wendy and I were in this area because we were doing a cross-country road trip, and we wanted to stop in Snowflake, Arizona, or at least drive through Snowflake, Arizona. Why? Well, that is the place that Travis Walton was abducted from, The Fire in the Sky, if you remember that that creepy sci-fi movie. The true story about this logger that was abducted by a UFO. The people in his crew, his team of loggers, saw it, witnessed it. They were all, for a while there, held in question for his murder, because his body, he was just gone. He vanished off the face of the earth. And these guys all said that no, he was taken by a UFO. And wouldn't you believe it? The authorities didn't believe it until 5 days later, he shows up naked, just walking on the street nearby where he was taken from. And when you drive, it's one of the great things is visiting these places. It's one thing to see a movie or to read a book, but when you're physically there, you kind of understand a story so much better. And this location where he was abducted from, you might wonder, like, well, how can a UFO come down, take somebody away, and then nobody sees it, other than the people that were immediately right there? This place has like 1.2 million acres of undisturbed forest. It is the darkest dark I had ever seen while I was on the road. Really, really middle of nowhere. And eventually we, get back on our way, and we're looking for the place where we're gonna camp for the night. And we just start searching for hotels on the road, and see, okay, well, there's a town coming up called Gallup. And I wish we stayed here. We didn't know about it until later. This building was built in the early 1930s by the brother of D.W. Griffith. D.W. Griffith was one of the biggest pioneers in early Hollywood. He was the first person to say, you know what, we don't need to set up a camera and then have all the action happen in front of it. We can actually move the camera around. What we're talking about here. And it was with D.W. Griffith and Chaplin and Pickford and Fairbanks that they started United Artists. But yeah, here's the interior of the lobby. You can see it's very much like a big hunting lodge. And this location, Gallup, by the way, is just such a beautiful town. Just incredible, huge cliff faces, natural rock formations and mountains. It's just an unbelievably beautiful place. It's not close, but it's apparently reasonable enough that this could be a place that Hollywood would go to make movies. And they made tons of movies here in the 1930s through 50s. A lot of Westerns. One of my favorite movies of all time. Now it goes by the name Ace in the Hole, a Kirk Douglas movie, who just recently passed away. It was originally called The Big Carnival, but Fort Defiance with Dan Clark was shot in this area. The Bad Men with Ronald Reagan. The Hollywood Trail with Burt Lancaster. There were just so many different movies shot here. Sinatra shot here, Bob Hope shot here. D.W. Griffith's brother had kind of the inside track of what Hollywood was doing, so they thought, hey, we're bringing in all of these stars. We need a big, lavish, awesome, luxurious place for everybody to stay while they're working on these movies. And that's what the El Rancho Hotel is. That's how it came to be, and it's still standing today in a very remote place. So I guess because of that, it's not the most in-demand location. You can get a room there fairly cheap. Again, I wish we knew this when we were driving through, but we did go and visit the site the next day. And you can walk through the hallways and see that the plaques on the doors, the Bob Hope room, the so on and so forth, all the different people where they stayed. This place is haunted. We don't really know why it's haunted. We don't have records of murders or anything tragic happening at this place. So maybe it's just a location that had so much activity, just real life energy, people coming in there, being creative, that they left something of a mark on the place. The stories involve, and it's so funny because when you talk to different people and look in different locations, you'll hear that the most active area is this place. No, the most active area is over here, which just kind of shows me that the whole place is active. So there's that grand staircase that goes up. A lot of people say that activity, they hear phantom conversations and laughter happening up there at the top of the staircase. Throughout the halls, People have said specifically the Frank Sinatra room, and oh gosh, I can't remember. There's a female starlet as well. The Bombshell of Brooklyn was her nickname. I can't think of it now. But those are very actively haunted rooms. But somebody staying in another suite said they were just dead tired from traveling all night, tried to get a good night's sleep, and then as soon as daybreak happened, as soon as the sun began to come up, the curtains flew open. So it's kind of hard to get back to sleep after then. And you have to wonder, was it somebody waking up at first light to go off to set and continue making some great film? So yeah, that is the El Rancho Hotel, a place that when the world opens up again, I cannot wait to get back there. I'm looking forward to doing way more road trips. And we absolutely, so I visited the place. I have not done an investigation there. I have not stayed overnight, but that, as soon as I'm able to, is gonna change. The other place I want to talk about tonight is the Yuma Territorial Prison, kind of a different type of lodging situation. And I'm going to be pulling a lot of this from a write-up I did on whatsyourghoststory.com. Now, this was a prison that was built in 1875, and actually the first prisoners, when they arrived, the place wasn't finished yet. So they became part of the construction crew. So the chain gang was actually building the structure that was going to imprison them. Usually when I was doing my trips between Arizona and California, I was taking a more northern route, and I decided one time, like, I just want to mix it up. So I took the southern route where you're going right along the Mexico border. And I just traveled through Yuma. I didn't stop, but I was seeing this cute little town in the middle of all these sand dunes. I thought, I need to find a reason to go back to this location because it just looks so interesting. It looks old. I bet there's good ghost stories, some haunted places associated with it. And within a month, I saw I was too late because the Ghost Adventures were advertising that they were covering the Yuma Territorial Prison. So they got there before me. But upon doing more research, I find out that there's a lot more places in Yuma that deserve attention. So, and if anybody's interested, there's season 12, episode 8, that of the Ghost Adventures that covers this location. And it's actually one of the best episodes, I think. So today, modern day, the prison is operated by the Park Service. So it is public property. I think there's a small admission fee, like $5 or so to go, completely worth it. But it has regular hours. You can go in and visit. They don't really have a ghost tour, which is unbelievable to me because the place has such a dark history, and we'll get into it more, but it's definitely an actively haunted site. So an interesting thing is it's right along the Colorado River. There's a railroad that goes by, and right opposite the river, there are bluffs that overlook the prison. And this location was the site of a major revolt of the Yuma and Kichan tribe that resulted in the destruction of 2 missions that were built on that property and the death of every European male, including the mission's founder, in 1781. So, and that's a place that's just open land right now. And you think people probably aren't going up there doing paranormal investigations, but there could be activity. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm really interested in. So many places get so much attention. I like to try to find new places that people haven't looked before, because there might be people trying to tell their stories and nobody's there to listen. Ann Anderson says, I miss camping, right as I was saying that. So maybe that's where you should go camping. I don't think I would do it there, but the prison, I can't believe I didn't actually put this text in it because there was such a great quote that I found when I was researching Yuma Territorial Prison. And it was that the only thing worse than being sentenced to prison at the Yuma Territorial Prison would be escaping it. Because at that point, you're just out in the most rugged and harsh of wilderness. And you can't imagine that most people, even if they did escape the prison, and there were many attempts at breaking out, including people that did get away, I think that was part of keeping prisoners in line. It's like, if you escape, you're not going anywhere. So it was nicknamed Hellhole Prison, and actually only ran for 33 years, 1786 to 1909. So the most iconic feature of this prison is the solitary confinement room. Basically, it's just a hole dug into the side of the landscape. There's metal pieces on the bottom, brackets, and they had kind of a strap metal cage that sat on top of it. So not only were you in solitary confinement in this hole dug into the landscape, but then you're in a cage within that. The only light that you would get is a ventilation shaft, just a small pipe that goes up through the roof. And it's said, alleged at least, that prison guards would take turns dropping scorpions down that to further torment the prisoners. The really great thing, the museum faction of this location today is really amazing to see. I mean, there's a lot of personal effects that prisoners have left behind, some of the artwork that they created while they were there, as well as detailed information about a whole bunch of different prisoners that have spent time in that location. So in the dark cell, that's one of the haunted locations. And if you go, just like if you watch the episode of Ghost Adventures, you will get buzzed by bats that are making that place their home. I don't know why this would be, but there's the spirit of a small child that haunts the dark cell. Obviously, no children were ever incarcerated here. In addition to people not feeling alone here, there are reports of being touched by a small, cold hand. One of the most infamous incidents happened in 1887 during an attempted prison escape that left 4 prisoners dead, 3 wounded, and the superintendent of the prison suffering multiple wounds from a butcher's knife that were so severe that the man, Thomas Gates, eventually committed suicide. Essentially, they took the superintendent hostage and brought him up to the Sally Port, demanding that the other guards open up those gates so that they could run off. However, while the superintendent was being held at knife point, at butcher's knife point, he gave a signal to a guard in a guard tower to start shooting, which he did. The prisoners were executed right there on the spot. Yeah, the skirmish did not go well at all for the prisoners. And you think guard tower, you think kind of what you see today, those huge, tall towers, but kind of looked more almost like a gazebo on a small perch. That is the guard tower. So yes, over here is the where they were trying to escape from, the Sally Port, and there's the guard tower. So it's very interesting today. It's just kind of an open campus style place, and you can go up into the guard tower. You can stand where the warden was being held at knife point. Again, the superintendent of the prison did survive this moment, but he was so injured from the knife wounds that he did eventually commit suicide to escape the pain. So you can understand if there are hauntings associated with that. For as much as the prison was considered harsh, largely due to the landscape, climate, and predatory wildlife of the area, it was actually pretty comfortable for the day. The building even had electricity by 1884. Now, keep in mind, that's 1884, hydroelectric electricity there. Chicago didn't see light bulbs until 1893 at the World's Fair, at least the first time they saw streetlights. The prison was even highly praised for rehabilitating criminals that were addicted to the morphine habit, as they called it, citing the positive change felt by famed female stagecoach robber Pearl Hart. So yes, there is even back then, this prison had a male and female ward. And I should describe, I haven't said it so much, it was kind of an open air prison. Kind of like if you were to compare a mall to a prison, but if you think about those malls that are outdoors, where the hallways that are in between the stores, there's no roof over them, kind of like that. All the cells were in these clumps, but ultimately it was just all a huge fenced-in, walled-in area. It housed some of the most ruthless female prisoners one could dream up, including 16-year-old Marina Moreno, who killed her younger brother with a shotgun blast to the face over an insult. They did not play in that family. Elena Estrada literally cut out her lover's heart when she caught him cheating. Over just 33 years, they had 3,000 inmates come into the prison. And we haven't even talked about the fact that over 100 inmates died on site due to different illnesses, mostly tuberculosis. But yeah, you didn't have to be murdered here to die here. It's like any prison. It's not the most wonderful living conditions. So when I was at this location, again, first I just spotted it as I was driving by and wanted to go back and check it out. By the time I did come back, the Ghost Adventures episode had been on. So I wanted to ask around with the employees, and I feel like you're always kind of walking on eggshells, I should say. You don't want to come off like a freak, like a lunatic. So I said, hey, I happen to see that there was a paranormal show that shot here. I don't know, what do you think about how it was depicted? What do you think about that show? And you just kind of want to play it even keel. And it was funny because this guy that I talked to was very much a no-nonsense guy. He worked for the park district. He was not a tour guide. He wasn't a showman at all. And you could tell he was almost insulted by how lackadaisical I was about asking the question. Like, do you think this place is really haunted? It's like, this place is haunted. I hear shouting here. I hear people call my name every day, especially when I'm here alone. So according to this guy, it is absolutely, unquestionably a haunted and actively haunted place. Also, I didn't mention this yet, is that there is actually a cemetery on site. It is very much a Wild West cemetery. There aren't individual headstones. There aren't even really markers other than the fact that there's piles of stones where each body is interred. 115 bodies are buried here. Something that's pretty common in haunted locations is people saying that they aren't being remembered after death the way they intended. And you do have to wonder if some of the hauntings are associated with the fact that these people aren't being remembered the way they would have wanted to be remembered. When we look at a haunted location, I was just talking with Jim Winter of, oh gosh, I'm gonna blank on his name now, Transcendence Paranormal, got there. He talked about how at the Berry Tavern, which, if you guys haven't seen that, please do check out that video I posted last week. The Berry Tavern, an amazing, amazing haunted location in Southwest Wisconsin. You know, we were looking at that place, and that place was the site of a big cholera epidemic that left a lot of people dead. And you go there assuming that you're going to find ghosts associated with these poor people that died during the cholera epidemic. But they've gotten Native American words to come across on EVPs. So it's kind of eye-opening to think, oh yeah, there's a life before this one event. Just like this location, that's obviously still true, but there's also a life after this, after it was a prison. Because like I said, it only made it until what, 1909 or something like that is what I said. After it was a prison, it became, as Yuma started to grow as well. So first off, a larger prison was opened somewhat nearby. All those prisoners were relocated. And now you have this big campus. Yuma is beginning to grow as a city. And well, now we gotta find places to take the kids to school. Well, might as well use this big empty campus. So this became Yuma High School, the old prison. You always thought your high school felt like a prison. This one actually was a prison. Why not have the mascot, the school mascot, be a prisoner? The Yuma criminals are still today what you call somebody that is in high school. Now that's not currently the high school anymore. There's a more proper high school, but this is the current high school mascot and logo, I should say, of the Yuma criminals. The tough-looking dude up at the corner there is the mascot, and they got a guy wearing a big head like that running around the football games. And you see, writing and science and sports, but you also see that there's a chain that is connecting them, and yep, the ball and chain that wraps around the Yuma HS at the very bottom. I got to appreciate that they're honoring their very unique history. They're not trying to run from it. So after it was a high school, though, it became a hospital, county hospital. So you wonder, obviously people are going to pass away at the hospital. You don't need a death, obviously, for a place to be haunted, but sometimes it helps. And you start to wonder, did the little boy ghost that people are observing in the solitary confinement room, did something happen during the hospital, during its time as a hospital that left that ghost behind? And after it was a hospital, after the stock market crashed, then it was just an abandoned location again, where a lot of homeless people began to take up, and it became kind of a homeless encampment. I'm really into archaeology and looking for the ruins of things and seeing artifacts left behind. The railroad that I mentioned that runs right alongside the prison, when that train yard expanded, they tore down part of the women's ward. If you look at it on Google Maps now, you can see that there's a part of the building that's been destroyed, but not entirely built on. So they just kind of needed more space to expand the train lines. And I really do wonder what kind of artifacts from the original prison are still just hiding right there in plain sight as trains are going by. Also, are there any hauntings associated with the women's ward that nobody is witnessing because it's just kind of like off their grounds now? So anyway, that is a little look at the El Rancho Hotel in Gallup, New Mexico. Sending our love to Gallup, who is really suffering and struggling right now. And I can't wait to go back there. Oh, and the Yuma Territorial Prison, like I said, they don't give ghost tours, but obviously their employees are open to talking about it. So there is a place I would love to host an event there at some point. Bucket list, wish list type of things. Again, just to recap what you guys have to look forward to, Friday, 6:30, Facebook.com/Haunted Galena. You will hear Ted and Robin, where they talk about the Dowling House, the oldest house in Galena, which is an actively haunted location. And from a little bit I heard, I'm not going to take any of the wind out of their sails. It's very actively haunted in a bunch of different locations in the house. Sunday, 2 in the afternoon, See You on the Other Side podcast is doing the live podcast recording where they will be interviewing Nick Redfern, who is the British best-selling author, journalist, cryptozoologist, and ufologist. He'll be talking about the Rendlesham incident. Again, next Tuesday, Amelia Cotter at 6 o'clock on her Facebook page. Amelia M. Cotter. Again, links are all over on the What's Your Ghost Story page in the description of this video. Do her storytelling session at 6 o'clock, and that is a family-friendly event with live animals, little petting zoo, virtual petting zoo as well, in addition to hearing some good stories. What'sYourGhostStory.com is my page. Feel free to check that out, browse around. And as always, I want to hear from you guys. I like for my content to be dictated by what you want to hear. So leave comments here. Check me out on YouTube and leave comments there. Let me know what you'd like to hear me talking about.